energy. Yeah, but the energy.
That's what you mean.
The running. Fernandez is, I think there's a player in there. He's 21, remember? The way he plays with Paqueta, everything he does, he's always looking for Paqueta, right? That's what I was watching on TV. I thought he was best this one for about 2 years. Paqueta, which means like it's immense. It's immense.
Can we go there, please?
Oh, it's immense. Paqueta's quite easy.
Right, we're all ready for the second half.
What
So what we're going to do, we're going to talk to Tony a little bit just before we finish up. We're going to come out and you can ask the questions. So I'm going to come out in the crowd and you can ask the questions. So if you've got any questions, start thinking about it and I'll come down there and I'm going to do that.
Cuts, black eyes.
Right, please,
But
right.
Keith,
Tony, I've enjoyed the first half. I've been speaking about you. We've got to bring it down a bit. I mean, West Ham this season, I mean, it hasn't been great, has it? I know we had a great performance on Sunday, great win, we needed it. Massive game this weekend. Tony, what is your thoughts on what's gone wrong at West Ham this season?
How long we got?
What time we should get to 11 o'clock, mate?
Should have got rid of boys.
Well,
It's not that.
No, it is that.
it was a good win against Newcastle, without a doubt. I think it's very hard to judge how good a win it was because I've got to be honest, I thought Newcastle were really poor. Having said that, we played really well. So we've got to work out which one it was, whether they was that bad or whether we was that good. The one thing, first thing I would say is it's amazing how you get a result if you play the players in the right position. No, that would be my first observation. I seriously hope that come the end of the season, we're not a few points off the safety, and then we'll look back on the Leeds and Brentford game and say, why on earth didn't we play our best players in the best positions? And the thing is with football, I said earlier, football is such a simple game. I've done a tweet on X and that, and I put a message to them, play your best players in the best position. Don't play a right back, a left back, a right back, an attacking midfielder, a holding midfielder, and no centre forward. It's just ridiculous. And we lost 6 points. All right, we might not have got 6 points, but we might have got 3 points. We might have got 2 points. You don't know, do you? But we should have given ourselves a better chance in the Leeds and the Brentford game. The Brentford game was as bad as I can remember in the last, God knows, 15, 20 years. It was very, very poor. But, to be fair, the lads responded. Good result against Newcastle, but, we've got to put in a good performance against Burnley. It is a 6-pointer. It's ridiculously 11 games into the season. It took a 6-pointer. But we've got some really tough games coming up. Bournemouth away is tough, isn't it? We've got Liverpool home, Man United away. They're tough games coming up. So we need to get a result against Burnley, and then we can judge how good or bad it was last weekend.
I mean, we did we see a bit of fight that weekend. It was pretty good actually, but before that, I didn't see any fighters. And that's the worrying thing. When you look around that changing room, how many fighters do you actually see? How many people can you depend on?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not privy enough to be in the dressing room. I love Jared. Jared's a fantastic player. In a way, I would rather him not have the responsibility of the captaincy. Having said that, he's done really well. So I'm not taking anything away from Jared. He's been brilliant. But you expect other players to step up. Like the Kilmans, the Součeks, people like that. You want them to step up, and you'd like to think they're in the dressing room. But I agree. The first 9 games or whatever it was, just didn't see anything, did we? And just the actual fact that even with us winning 2 games, we might not get out the bottom 3. It tells you how bad the start to the season was. But I don't want to make excuses for the players, but it doesn't help if you've had 4 managers in 16 months. That is just ridiculous. Because you're trying to get used to a manager and then he goes, and get used to another manager and then he goes. You've got players that have been brought in, some of which obviously shouldn't have been signed. Either not good enough, or in my opinion, they're wrong signings. So, it's been hard for the players. But having said all that, you're getting paid, as we said, fantastic money. You're playing for a fantastic football club, passionate support. And, I get pissed off when people say, West Ham, they want to play good football. That's not the first thing a West Ham fan wants to see. The first thing a West Ham fan wants to see, give 100%. You can be absolutely shit, but if you run around and you make the effort, and all right, your tackles might be off, you might miss an open goal, but if you work hard, show that passion, the fans will put up with it. The fans will say, well, at least he had a go. But we didn't see that in those games. And I think that was the real disappointing thing, that up until the Newcastle game, all right, Forest was a great result, but there wasn't a lot else, was it? The other games, Everton away, you can argue. But then you look, well, Freddie Potts played in that one. And Freddie came on Arsenal and played well. You think, what has he got to do to get a game?
When he come on against Leeds, it changed.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, that's what I say. We can't have that midfield, For me, Souček's an impact player now. Exactly what he did at the weekend. He came on, made a difference. If Antonio was still at the club, he'd be in the same position. Andy Irving's a bit of a cult hero, but he hasn't performed consistently as a player because he ain't played. So, there's still a lot of answers. I want to give Nuno a chance. I want to. I don't know whether I can, but I want to give him a chance because we can't keep swapping managers. You can't keep getting rid of, we're not doing very well, let's get rid of the manager. And then you get another manager, and then you go in the January window, and then you spend money on another 3 players. Then you get to the end of the season, let's get rid of him. You just can't keep getting rid of managers. It's not fair on the players. But the players aren't stupid. The players will look. If I'm Jarrod Bowen and I'm looking at Ollie Scholes playing at right back, Wan-Bissaka or Walker Peters playing at left back, if I'm Jarrod Bowen, what the fuck's going on here? Because as a player, you want your best players in the best position, and the players want that. The fans want that. The one thing West Ham fans ain't, they are not stupid. They know their football, they understand their football, and you can't kid them. They know who's trying, they know who's good, and you can't kid the West Ham fans, and you can't play players out of position and then moan. Because those 2 results were purely and utterly down to Nuno. Can't say nothing else.
Wrong game to experiment in.
Yeah, but I get anything in life, you experiment and try something, and you try it and it goes wrong, and you put your hands up and say, do you know what? You come out and you go, do you know what? I tried something. I thought I could get something out of the lads. I've tried something a little bit different, 3 or 4 things and that. To do it again was absolute madness. Absolute madness, and it cost us. And I just hope it don't cost us at the end of the season.
Yeah, you said about the fans. Obviously, there's a planned protest this weekend. This will be the 4th protest, I think, this season now. We are frustrated as fans, Tony. You're a fan yourself. And we've moved to the London Stadium. We've promised the world, and we've got fuck all. People say about, the Conference League, but look, it's been a difficult time lately for West Ham fans, and now the fans are starting to step up, stand up, and they're sticking together against the owners. We know, I've heard your thoughts on the owners, and I know you're not a big fan of them. And I know I know the other year you was involved with the PAI Capital takeover. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that sort of come out of the blue, and there was yourself and I think the Ferdinand brothers involved, and I think there was a few other people involved as well. So talk to us about that.
Well, obviously, I had to pick. So I was working at the club doing bits and pieces at the time, so it was a difficult decision for me to do that. You can only, when you're presented with something, you can only listen to what they're saying, work out whether it's correct what they're saying, and whether their vision for the club is the right thing. And if you believe that's the case, which I did, you back it, which is what I did. Listen, in the end, I got on a horse, and the horse never won. And obviously Daniel Kretinsky got involved, and once Daniel got involved, I think David Sullivan got what he wanted, which was investment without giving up the power. And of course, he's still got the power now. Daniel had 1 year exclusivity to buy the 100% shares, and he didn't do it for whatever reason. I don't know whether there's other factors at play that he couldn't do that. But he sort of had his chance to do it, and he didn't do it. So we're now back to square one, really, albeit with another investor in the club. I've said it publicly, and I'm happy to say it tonight. I believe that things at the club won't change until we have a change of ownership. But it ain't easy. There ain't too many people out here with a few billion quid in their pockets there who are going to throw it, at a football club or West Ham in general. What they want for the club. It's all right asking 700 million for the club, but there's no assets. Why would you buy a company, a company, a brand and that, when it doesn't have, we don't own the ground. So it's very difficult to justify paying that sort of money, which narrows down the field. If we are going to be sold, I don't think it'll be a UK ownership. I think it'll probably be North American, or you could be looking at the Middle East. And that's where the money would come from. That's where the money is at the moment. So, we'll have to wait and see. I'm all for the protests, as long as they're peaceful, done in the right way. I think West Ham fans have had more than enough to protest about over the last 2 years.
Did Was you privy to any of the dealings that Mike Apple had with Sullivan? Is he an easy man to deal with? Is he an easy man to
No, of course he's not. No, of course he's not. He's a tough bloke to deal with, and you know, I get it from his point of view. It's his baby. You know, he loves all the transfer windows, doesn't he? Getting involved and getting players in and out, and I think that he probably wants to leave it to his two sons. That's probably what he wants to do. I get it. I understand it from his point of view. I don't think that's the right thing for the club. And, you know, we always say, like, you know, he's not really the owner of the club. He's a custodian. He's in charge. It's his job to do the right things for the club. You know, over the course of, you know, they've been here 15 years now. It might be 20 years. It might be 15 years and one day. I don't know. But when you're in charge, you've got to do what's right for the club. What I really, really don't like is there is no care, there's no feeling towards the fans, and they don't listen to the fans. There's so many things that the fans could say, you know, I don't like this, I don't like that, you know, but they don't listen. And it's like a business, and they're, you know, their business. Are we making money? You know, can we sell for 700 million or whatever it might be? That's what they seem to be interested in. And, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, there is no plan. That's what really pisses me off. There is no plan. There is no business plan. I don't think there's a business plan for this season, let alone for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I'm sure anyone a successful businessman in here tonight, there must be a few of you. If you are, you do a business plan. The business plan is for 5 years. You can't just live about 5 days' time and then we'll make a decision. So we've gone through 4 managers and end up with what we had in the first place. Because let's not forget, like, Nuno's tactics, he was a goalkeeper. Okay? His tactics, be strong defensively and be a counter-attacking team, like what Forest were like last season. Yeah? That's Nuno's tactics. Does that remind you of someone?
David Moyes.
David Moyes. I'll tell you what we do, we'll get rid of David Moyes, we'll put Takeover in, who was crap. We put Graham Potter in, who I was really disappointed with. I was really hoping he would then change it, and he didn't. It didn't work for him for whatever reason. And now we're back to Nuno, and we've got someone doing what David Moyes was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't get it. There's no plan, there's no thought, there's no, in 2030 we're going to be doing this. You know, like you say, Brian, they promised this, they promised that at the stadium. None of that happened either. I don't see retractable seating, do you?
No.
You know, and the hardest thing, and you know, people wonder why West Ham fans are pissed off. There is one reason why we're pissed off. We are the only club that's left the football ground to go to an athletics ground. That is why they're pissed off. You know, the only other club that's done it, British club, UK club, is Man City. But Man City, they was always going to dig down, make the lower tier into a football stadium. So when they moved there, it was going to be converted. We just moved to an athletic stadium. Listen, I love the stadium. I go to the stadium, I go, wow, what a great stadium. It's a great stadium for concerts, for rugby, for baseball, for monster trucks. It's great for that. It's great for that, but it's not a football stadium. And you've got passionate fans that love their football, love being close to the pitch, and you just put them as far away as possible. That's why we're pissed off. So even though we've won a European trophy, it doesn't satisfy what's wrong, you know, and they've got to look at that. If someone else takes over, you've got to speak to the fans. What do you want? Do you want to stay there? Do you want to adapt it into a football stadium? Or do you want to do what Everton have done? Everton have built a fantastic stadium. It can be done. Yeah, but listen to the fans. They're not stupid. Listen to the fans. That's where I get annoyed.
Brilliant. You know what? I wish more ex-players could speak up like you. I love that passion.
Yeah, but
you can see you're a fan.
Yeah, but a lot of them can't because, like, sometimes they're employed by the club, and I get it. You know, if you're employed by the club or you're working in the media, you can't say it. You know, I've got no loyalty to anyone. I'm not employed by the club. I don't have to answer to anyone. I can say what I want, and I'm also a fan. And so when I do a tweet or go on Instagram and that, I'm doing it as a fan. I'm not, forget the fact I play for West Ham, that's irrelevant. I'm doing it as a fan. And my message to Nuno was play your best players in your best positions. And every other fan that had been to the game said the same thing as me. So that's all I'm saying. I'm only really echoing what the fans think because I'm a fan myself.
Because you're a fan and you was in the mainstream media at the time, and I've seen plenty of clips of you know, criticising, you know, from, you know, over the last 10 years. What's changed to make the mainstream media now start to realise what's going on? Because you've got a lot of David Croft who started speaking out against the owners on the F1 programme, which I liked it. Then Jamie Carragher seemed to get it. A few of them now are starting to get it. Is it just because they can see the power shifting? Because there's all of these sort of accusations that they're friends of his and they're doing his favours for him on the telly, but now they seem to be sort of turning the tide. Even Jeff Steady turning the tide. You know Jeff?
Yeah, I know Jeff really well. Yeah, I mean, I think you said the word frustration, and I think that's where we are with it, and I believe that we had a wonderful opportunity in 2023 for the club to go to the next level, which is what the board said, what Sullivan, Goldbrady, they said, world-class stadium and world-class team and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not saying we would become that, but when you get to 2023, we win the Conference League. And more importantly, we win the FA Youth Cup. Okay? Now, a lot of the players that played in for Arsenal in that FA Youth Cup have been playing in the first team for Arsenal. But we've just managed to get Freddie Potts in after 2 years. It's not easy for a club like West Ham to win the Youth Cup. It happens every 25 years. You look at the history, it goes down. It's every 25 years, every 20 years, we win the Youth Cup. So not only have you got a team that's won in Europe, you've got a youth system that is bringing, that you should have players to go and support the next generation coming through. And that's where the fans get frustrated, because instead of building on that, we've just, not we, they've allowed the club to go on a massive dive, and they wonder why the fans get pissed off with it. Because we're all looking at it thinking, we just won in Europe, we've all had a great time, we've got a great academy, I know what we do, we just hang the manager out to dry, which they did, David Moyes I'm talking about. David Moyes, whatever you think of David Moyes, right? David Moyes, if you don't want him to be the manager, at least let him stay at the club and build and put in a 5-year plan, like he did at Everton. He had ups and downs at Everton. It wasn't all ups. It was an up, down, up, down, up, down. The end of his time at Everton, first spell, get to the FA Cup final and play in the Champions League. We wouldn't mind that, would we? Let's be honest. Right? But that's what should have happened. You've got to put a plan in place. You can't just live for today in football. As they say, once the game's finished, it's, as I used to say, it's gone. You've got to move on. So they didn't put a plan in place. They hung him out to dry. Once he had 1 year left on his contract, players are going, bothered, you ain't going to be here next year. I'm not going to run through that brick wall anymore. And that's exactly what happened. And then you've got the next appointments, ridiculous. Then they had 4 managers to choose from this time, and they choose Nuno. I'm not sure. I'm genuinely not sure. I wish him all the best. I hope it works out. I'm not sure he's the right man to take us into the future.
Well, if Moyes was available, do you think they would have gone back to him, or they just tried?
He wasn't, and it's irrelevant. And he wasn't on the shortlist, so it didn't matter. But was he very good at what he does? And he won us our first trophy in 43 years. We played in Europe three seasons running. We finished in the top 7, was it? 3 out of 4 seasons. And then people say, "Oh yeah, but of course we finished 14th." Yeah, but we won the Conference League.
I didn't want to.
Right, so bloody Tottenham fans drive you mad, don't they? You think, what do you want as a Tottenham fan? Seriously, right? We want to be absolutely shit, win a trophy, and get the Champions League. Oh no, we don't want that. We want to play good football. You think, no, it's about results. Football's about results, and that's a West Ham fan. We take it all day long. If you said at the start of the season we're going to finish 17th, we're going to be absolutely shit, but we're going to win the Conference League and you're going to get the Champions League. Oh, we'll have some of that. That's what we want. So we just got, I don't know, I'm frustrated, we're all frustrated. I want the fans to protest because I think it's important. I think that the board should understand we are not happy. In general, we are not happy. What are you going to do about it? I think the answer is probably nothing, but it doesn't stop the fans protesting. I think they've got to keep protesting to try and get the point across.
Brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant. Right, should we do the Q&A now?
Who's got a question? I'm going to come out. Right, let's go right to the front.
You do that side, I'll do this side.
Yeah, okay, I'll go this guy. You start with that, Jim. I'll come over.
All right, so right here.
Good.
So, Tony, just going on from what you just said, why did Sullivan bring in Steiner? Do you know?
Absolutely no idea. But, some of his decisions were just ridiculous. We just won the Youth Cup. We've got a lad called George Urphy, good player. Right? What do? Go and sign a Brazilian 18-year-old for £25 million who's never going to play. And more importantly, he's not really good enough. So I don't know what Tim Steiner was doing. He was just signing players. Was it him signing them? Is it Sullivan? I don't know. We have just had the other lad who come with Graham Potter. Steiden's gone and the other lad coming, I can't remember what his name was. And he signed a few players, There is just there's no structure to the football club. It is just living for today. And then if we mess up, we mess up. All right, but let's get someone else in. And you can't be like that. You need a proper structure in place. And I think that's what a lot of the fans groups are called for. You know, a different ball with a different way of running it. You look at Brentford, you look at Brighton, look at Bournemouth, look at Palace. Look at Palace. You know, they're clubs that have got a structure and an identity. You know, we just go from one defeat to another, and, you know, and then bobble along and nothing happens. You know, I don't know why he put Tim Stein in, but a lot of his signings leave a lot to be desired.
Thank you. 1 year, Tom.
Where are we? Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, back to 85, 86. I went home and away to loads of games that season. It was best times for West Ham. The way I remember it, it was built on a very solid defence. Alvin Martin, Tony Gale, Ray Stewart, I think were at their peak, very peak that season. And I think Neil Law did a very good shielding the defence. He was like a holding midfielder before people talked about holding midfielders. And then yourself, Frank McAvenny and Mark Ward had real pace and speed. And Devonshire and Dickens were playing very accurate through balls. And I hear a lot about what the West Ham way is these days, and people criticise Moyes and now Nuno, and they say it's not counter-attacking football. But would it be fair to say that the 85-86 team, especially away from home, was counter-attacking team and counter-attacking football?
I think we could do a bit of both, because you're right, defensively we had like Parksy was a world record for a goalkeeper. That was how good Phil Parks was. Ray Stewart, Scottish international, Alvin, England international. Whether we had Wally or Georgie Paris, they played well at left back. Gailey was a good player as well. Gailey probably should have played for England. Now, we had some really, really good players, and we had the attacking flair as well. I wouldn't say that we was a defend and counter-attacking team. I think we went toe-to-toe with whoever we was playing. And I think that was the beauty of that season, that we just went head to head, and we'll take you on, you take us on, and it was just a magical season. Really was a fantastic season. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because as a player we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, Tony, got away here, mate.
Hi, Tony.
Oh, yeah.
Excepting Trevor's goal against Arsenal and Paolo's against Wimbledon and Jared's against Fiorentina.
Two.
Your goal against Chelsea's, the first goal at Stamford Bridge, 86, in the mud, in that classic away kit. Also, I'm playing on a lute to my 8-year-old, so he knows how good you were in those days. Please can you tell me how much that meant to you, and what were your memories of that goal?
Well, it was a fantastic team goal. The first goal was a brilliant goal. Alan Devonshire scored top corner. I know that day, I think the crowd was about 25,000. That was in the days when Chelsea was shit. Obviously, he didn't get any good. I think it was 15,000 West Ham and about 10,000 Chelsea. And Alan Dev put one in the top corner. But the goal that I scored was a team goal. It was actually, if you watch it from the beginning, the Chelsea cross comes in and we head it away. And then we build. Alan Dickinson's involved. I was involved in the build-up. Georgie Paris, and then he runs down the left, cuts it across, and finished it off. But it was a fantastic team goal. And I think after that game, and then on the Monday we played. That was on Saturday. And on Monday we beat Spurs 2-1. And I think at that point, we all genuinely thought, you know what, we got a chance here. We had games in hand. We was well behind with the games, but we genuinely thought, we could go on and win this league. And obviously, I think people talk about the Chelsea home game as the slip-up, really. I think that was really what cost us, because we was 1-0 up, I scored, and we were winning 1-0 against Chelsea, and then you lose 2-1 at home. Didn't really help things, obviously, but, we had just had so many games. But that, the fans, if ever anyone says about the best game of that 85-86 season, I think anyone who was at Stamford Bridge, that was an unbelievable game. To win 4-0, wouldn't mind that, would you? Chelsea 0, West Ham 4. We wouldn't mind some of that this season. It's not going to happen, by the way, but yeah.
Okay. Attacking as well.
That particular goal was,
Thank
yeah.
you,
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Right, Tony, so if you could bring back one of your former teammates to replace one player in the current team, that would have the biggest difference to the current 11, our best hope of getting out of a relegation battle we find ourselves in, who would you bring back?
That is such a hard question, because I'm not a lover of our goalkeepers. Defensively, yeah, Alvin would be great in the back, wouldn't he? But then Alvin was never the quickest player in the world, and there's a lot of place about. Midfield, mean, I'd love to put Alan Devonshire. Alan Dev was the best to play with, so I'd love to get Alan Devonshire in the team. But then, where does he fit in? And is he going to get the ball? Is he going to be able to do what he used to do? I mean, imagine Dev playing on the pitches now; he'd be phenomenal, wouldn't he? But I think the answer to the question: we need more than one player. I think, you know, and a striker, yes, someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. But then, having said that, you then got to create chances. I don't know whether the players we've signed have been bad signings or I don't know. I'm talking about like Haller for instance, a good player. And then the other lad, Skamaka, good player. And you look at me and you look at Fulcrew, apparently was good. He comes to us and he's hopeless, you know, and you're thinking like, you know, is there something that are we not giving the forwards the service? Or is it they're not good players? You know, but they're good players for other clubs. So we need to solve the goals. If you can get a goal scorer that scores 10, 12 Premier League goals, then you're going to stay in the Premier League. So of all the good players I'd want to bring back, you really need to get the goal scorer in the team, someone who's going to get 12, 15 goals. We could all fantasise about it, and if it ain't going to happen, is it? And if it does, we've got to wait till January. But there's got to be a forward out there somewhere who can score a few goals for the club.
Yeah, Tony, back here, mate. Over here, look. In the VIP section, at the back here, look. Yeah. Tony, what's your views now on I'd like to go back to the 3 foreign players playing in the Football League.
Yeah.
To give the youth in Britain a chance to come forward. What's your views on that?
Well, I don't really understand what's happened because, yeah, you're right. I mean, in the 90s, it was a bit primitive, and I remember Man United having to drop Peter Schmeichel and stupid things like that. It was all a bit weird. And then we started to have Chelsea with not one English player. That didn't help things. And then I could have sworn recently that we had a rule where you had to have so many homegrown players in the squad. Yeah, but the problem is, I look at teams playing, Premier League teams, and there's a lot of teams that got like one Englishman, and that's about it in the team. So I think it's something they need to look at because all it means is our kids aren't getting the chance. And, you know, I know where people go, yeah, but Max Downman's playing, and I get that, but he's an exception. There's a lot of players that should be given an opportunity, and the squads as well now. Maybe they should do something, I don't know, about the squads. Maybe you should have 10 homegrown players or something like that. And then the problem you got is I think Cesc Fabregas was counted as a homegrown player. I could have sworn he weren't English, Cesc Fabregas, but we need to give our kids a chance. And like I say, I've already said about our good kids that we've got at West Ham. You know, I'm delighted Freddie Potter's been given a chance. George Murphy's coming back from injury. There's some other good kids that need to be given that chance. And then everyone says, but you know, they're not experienced. And you think, well, you ain't going to get experience if you're not given a chance. So I think we need something that the FA should look at because I'm very pro British players being given a chance. And, you know, I don't want to see a team full of 11 different internationals playing for West Ham. That's not what I want to see, to be honest with you. You know, you want to see at least 2 or 3 homegrown players in that team. So maybe it's something they've got to look at the rules.
Tony, mate, back here. Yeah. The council wants to ask you a question.
Okay, I'm in trouble, mate.
No, you don't really have. Okay.
Hello, thanks for your time this evening. Quick question on 2 things. One being Declan Rice. What's your perception, given your experience with the Everton leave and Millwall experience? What do you think of his reception being poor? And backing on that, this weekend, someone like Josh Cullen coming back, Burnley captain, who has been a homegrown talent, who's been a great player, now coming back to be an experienced player. What's your view on players being perceived poorly by West Ham fans?
I wouldn't say they're perceived poorly, and I think they almost get booed because they're not a West Ham anymore. And I think it's more that you're not booing Declan because he's shit, are you? You're not, you know, that's not what you're booing for. You boo sometimes to voice your disapproval that he's left. You know, so I sort of get it. I personally, and I've said it before and I say it again, I believe Declan will come back to our club. It might not be for another 6, 7, 8 years. He might come back as an ageing centre-half. But Declan's best position, believe it or not, is centre-half. And I'd like to think that maybe it will achieve what he left to go and win Champions League, whatever it might be for Arsenal, go and win your trophies and then come back to West Ham. That's what I would like to happen. And I think if he did, I think the fans would be fine. You're right. There'd be a few moaning to start with. It's a bit like Frank Lampard. If we had Frank Lampard back as manager, we'd all have a little moan up, wouldn't we? Oh, we remember when he left, and Big Frank and all that sort of stuff. Then we win a couple of games and we'll all be singing his name and it'd be Super Frankie Lampard. So, I'm telling you now, if Frankie... I would rather have Frank Lampard than Nuno. That's my opinion. It might split the fans. Yeah, but Frank's a West Ham fan. You've got to remember Frank's a West Ham fan.
I love
Frank's a West Ham fan. He might not come back. Yeah, but I'm also allowed an opinion. And my opinion is... Yeah. No, of course, that's what football's all about. It's great to have, it's great to have a bit of banter and that. But I personally would have rather have seen Frank than Nuno. That's just me personally.
Right, Tony, we've got one more down right by the door.
Tony,
I
why do
see
you
your
think
logic
they
there,
left full
Tony.
press the whole squad altogether?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Do you think he should be there?
Well, he obviously fell out with Nuno, didn't he? Because as soon as Nuno arrived, that was it. He was gone, wasn't he? So something must have happened at Forest. Listen, he has been a good player, but I would say for West Ham, he just hasn't shown what he showed at other clubs. And all the free kicks and everything. He never scored a free kick, and I feel for him really, because I've been a fan over the years. I think he's been a good player, and it just doesn't work for him at West Ham. But listen, that happens. Sometimes things work for you at a club, and then you go to another club and it doesn't work. But I think his days at West Ham are almost definitely over. Certainly under the current manager, I don't think we'll see him play again. And he needs to move on. He's 30 years of age, and he's running out of time. He needs to go and play football.
Right, there's one more at the back. Right at the back.
Okay.
Hi Tom.
How you doing?
Hey, mate, all right. Just a quick one. So, yeah, I mean, you're my first idol, so I can't really get away from that. As I said to Ryan earlier, I think it was the first striker, the first match I saw, Everton 2-2, when he was in a West Ham shirt.
I remember it well, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously we did have you when you played for Leicester. You done us 4-2. I think it was on our last game of the season. But either way, I just wanted to know from what you said earlier about the Malaysian sort of move. What was in there? I know you said something like a payday or something, but I just wanted to know a bit more about that and possibly why you moved.
It was a nice holiday. Well, it was probably the equivalent of what the players do now. The players go to Saudi Arabia, as you know, and get an absolute fortune. I went to Malaysia and didn't get a fortune. I had to be out of the country for 10 months to not pay any tax, and I was only out for 8 months, so I come back to the tax bill. So that didn't really work either. I don't know, it was a difficult one because, as I said, I didn't want to leave, What made me laugh is that, Harry Redknapp sort of said, West Ham are skin, we're losing money, we need to bring money into the club, otherwise we're going to be in financial trouble. So when the deal came round, as I said, I didn't want to leave, but then I'm thinking, well, I had all these players in front of me, Harry bought loads of players, I thought, I don't want to be sixth choice striker. I genuinely wanted to play football, and there wasn't really anything else on the table. So I thought, well, if I go to Malaysia, it's going to help the club out. So when I signed for Selangor, West Ham got 750 grand. So I'm thinking, I've actually done the club a favour. I've helped to stop them going into administration or wherever it might be. That was in the October. In the January, they bought Kitson and Artson for $5.5 million. And I think, I thought we were skiing. How's that work? So, it was a great experience to go to somewhere else, that part of the world. It was just too hot. It was really, really hot, humid, too hot for me to run around in. And, I couldn't really get back quick enough, to be honest with you. And then came back, had a great time at Leicester. But, I can't change it. I've been to Malaysia and that's it. It's on the CV. You can't change Millwall, which I could. They're all things you do. You make your decisions as you go through your career.
Well done.
Okay, so yeah, and a bit of a later question. What's the best punch-up you've ever seen in your career in a change room or on the pitch? Best punch-up? I remember as a kid, I was only an apprentice, and I remember finishing training early on a Friday. I was only 16 at the time, and they had the old gym at Chapel Heath, and I was looking through the door, and bearing in mind this is a Friday and they're playing the game on Saturday, and Paul Allen and Alvin had a proper tear up, and there was just loads of punches, like a proper fight, and the lads sort of steamed in and pulled them apart and all that, and I thought, oh, it was a good fight sort of thing. And then fast forward to the mid-90s, and Alvin had another fight, and this time he's a scouser, and you know what they like scouser, they like around them. So we're on the training field, and Alvin and Matt Rush were having a bit of a to-do, and they were sort of pushing and shoving and sort of sniping each other and all that, and then all of a sudden it just kicked off. And anyway, Alvin went for the windmill tactics, like that, and Rushy, who used to do boxing as a kid, just was like bobbing and weaving and all that, and just hit Alf, and then like that. Now we went windmill and Rushy hit him again. But we just stood and watched because it was one of them really good fights, you know, none of the lads called in. I didn't want to get in between them two anyway, but that was probably the best fight, you know. Funny enough, Everton Leicester, I can't remember seeing too many fights. There was one fight between Kevin Sheedy and Martin Keown, but that was in a bar in Southport, so they probably don't count. Yeah, I mean, they're the two that spring to mind, West Ham wise. Yes, sir.
What's the best story from a team night out that you've got?
Oh.
You're allowed to say.
Don't have to be West Ham.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Well, it's not really a night out, but when I went to Everton, manager was Howard Kendall. Colin Harvey signed me, he got sacked and Howard took over. And some of you might have heard this because I told the story on a podcast, but basically we had a pre-season tour to Switzerland. And we flew into Switzerland, we got on this bus, travelled for about 4 hours, and ended up in this hotel, which was at the bottom of a lovely picturesque village in the middle of nowhere in Switzerland, at the bottom of a mountain. And basically the only things that are in the village is a hotel with a training pitch, a pub, and a brothel. That was all there was. Right? So we're there for 10 days, and the day goes like this. So you get up in the morning, have your breakfast, do your training, you have your lunch, 2 o'clock, everyone's bored. Oh, go down the pub. Down the pub for 3 or 4 hours, have a right few drinks. Where'd you go after the pub? Go to the brothel. Walk into the brothel, there's Howard Kendall in there with a couple of birds. In you come, lads! What took you so long? And that was repeat. And anyway, one of these nights, there's a funny sort of side story. I was rooming with Pat Nevin. Pat Nevin was a great lad. And Pat decided not to go out. And the only other lad who didn't go out was a lad called Andy Hinchcliffe, who's now doing the commentary for Sky. So those two stayed in. I think they was reading the book or something like that. And we've all gone through what we've gone through. And then I got home whatever time it was, and Pat said, "Oh, you're getting up for breakfast?" I went, "No, leave me for breakfast. I'd had a load of drink." I said, "Like, just wake me up when you come back from breakfast." So he's gone down, had his breakfast. He came back up to the room. He went, "I said, I can't believe what's just happened." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, there was only 3 of us at breakfast." I said, "Well, who was that then?" He went, "Me," as in Pat Nevin. He's gone, "Andy Hinchcliffe and Howard Kendall." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, the thing is, Howard gave us a bollocking for not going out." It's in pre-season. And he literally said to Pat Nevin and Andy Hinchcliffe, "You two, you're a disgrace. You should have been out with the lads and all that." The lads went, "Well, he was reading the book." That was the good old days of the 80s and 90s where, you know, there was a drinking culture, but it weren't just West Ham, Everton. We had Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, obviously, Tottenham. I think pretty much every club there was a drinking culture, and as I said, dear old Arsenal came in and that soon changed, didn't it?
Tony, I've got one more over here, mate.
Actually, Tony, that probably follows on quite nicely to my question. What I was going to say was, so I've been extremely lucky to have been a West Ham fan and a season ticket holder from the age of about 10, 11. But as I started to grow up, Hollywoods and Time and Envy.
It's not a story involving me coming in.
Meet your son. No.
Very good, I like that. Is that the husband here? He's well pleased with what you're saying there. Anyway, Hollywood's, it's got to be a Machiavelli story, surely.
Hang on a minute, he's just coming in now. No. Do you think the camaraderie that you had within the changing rooms and then the connection with the fans outside, i.e. in the Hollywoods and all that kind of thing, made a huge difference? Because legends to us then were very different to what legends are now. What you see is on TV and on Twitter and all that kind of thing. You were in touching, not touching distance.
This is by far the best question of the night, I've got to say. She hasn't finished yet.
Lily, Tony, in you come. Do you think that potentially that what the clubs are missing are that closeness of, oh my God.
Yeah. Listen, I'll help you out. I know what you're trying to say. I think when we played, and as you know, you could, as a fan, you could go to the training ground, you could come and watch us train. When we pulled into the car park, up to the park, albeit through the fence or whatever, you could put your arms through and get your signatures and all that sort of stuff. And I think, I always come back to the 85-86, but the 85-86 was a journey, not just for the players, but it was a journey for the fans as well. Those that were lucky enough to go on that journey, you know, we all felt like we was in it together. You felt the players, you know, loved the club or playing for the club, trying for the club, etc. And then you sort of whiz forward to the current state of football, and you say about camaraderie, and I look at the players, and sometimes, you know, I've been down to the training ground sometimes, they don't look like they're enjoying it sometimes, there's not a smile on their face. I look at them get off a bus, they get off a team bus with bloody headphones on. Now, seriously, firstly, what are they listening to? I've got no idea. And secondly, if you've got headphones on, you are not communicating with your mates. And, you know, all right, it was a bit primitive, but like if we played, say West Ham, we're playing at Liverpool, we get on the bus on a Friday afternoon, we drive up, you've got 5-6 hours, you're playing cards, you're having a bit of banter or whatever, you play the game, obviously win, lose, draw, whatever it might be. We used to stop at the chip shop and get some fish and chips and get the beers in, and you've got 5 hours on the bus on the way back. But at least we spoke to each other, at least we communicated with each other. You know, nowadays you just feel like, you know, do the players talk to each other? I bet they don't go out. I know they do team bonding. They might get on a go-kart or something and do something like that. You know, but I don't get, there's not that camaraderie. And you've also got what the gentleman spoke over there, you've got a lot of foreign players who've probably got a different culture, a different way of doing things. And it does make it really, really hard. And then you also come to what is the biggest problem for players of the modern era is mobile phones. And that is the problem. And, you know, look, so when I used to play, even in the 90s, in my second spell, so I'm talking mid-90s, I used to say to my dad, Dad, where am I meeting you after the game? And Dad would say, well, I'll be down to Central, son. I was like, okay, all right, Dad, I'll come down to Central then and meet you. So after the game, I mean, sort of finish the game, go in the players' lounge, have a couple of pints, you jump in your car, drive around the corner, go into Central. And I used to, bearing in mind, I'm playing up front for West Ham, I walk in the pub and I'm going like, oh my God, Tony Cottie's in the Central like that. What are you doing in here? Well, come to see me dad and have a drink, is that all right, sort of thing. You know, but I could do it and it didn't get reported, it's not in the newspapers, it wasn't on Sky Sports, Talk Sport and all that shit. But nowadays, you imagine Jared Bowen doing it now. As soon as he walks in the pub, the camera's on him, he'd grab his first pint of beer, he'd just be out of a glug like that, and oh, Jared Bowen, he's a disgrace, he don't care, he's had 10 beers down the Central, and that's what the report would be. So as a result of that, because of the mobile phones, the players are put in a bubble. I don't agree with it, because it's an even more a bigger bubble than the bubble that I was in, and they're so protected, and everything's done for them. And they don't know what life's about, and then they come out the bubble, and then they've got to learn to be a normal human being and get in the real world.
Do you think that affects the love that they have for the club? Because if you know, right, the fans take to you and you connect with them fans, you give your all. If you're not getting that connection, you don't give your all. Like, it's easy to walk away then.
Yeah, of course it is, and don't forget as well, some of the players, it's a job. It is a job. I don't get it. I used to love football. I used to love watching football. I watched Match of the Day. I couldn't get enough of football. I used to study it. I knew all the players from yesteryear. And like nowadays, you sort of meet someone and there might be a youngster playing in the first team and that, they've got no idea, even if you say my name, they've got no idea, some of them, not all of them, some of them have got no idea who you are. And you're thinking, well, surely you must know a little bit about football in general, but your dad must have told you something, or your granddad, I'm that old, he could be the granddad, you know, but you should know it. And I don't know, it's just so different. And, you know, you hear stories of players, you know, it's a job. It's a job for them and that, and you think, you're getting £100 a week, you know, you've got to give a little bit more back. It ain't just a job where you just take the money and not give something back. You know, if you're lucky enough to get that sort of dough, you've got to give something back. Do exactly what I said as a West Ham fan, put the effort in. My dad, just to finish off, my dad said to me, well, when I said to my dad one day, I said, Dad, everyone goes on about what is the West Ham way. I said, I don't know what it is, Dad, what is the West Ham way? I was a young kid. He went, son, he said, I'll tell you what the West Ham way is. I said, what's that, Dad? He said, right, he said, first and foremost, he said, we want to see effort. I said, okay, that's fine, fair enough. He said, secondly, he said, we want to see some good football. He went, thirdly, every now and again, we want to win a trophy. Well, okay, fair enough. He said, and fourthly, depending on what division we're in, we beat Spurs or Millwall. That's quite a good summing up of the West Ham way. And if you think about it, very basic, but it's probably true.
Probably true. I'll tell you what, Tony, right? You've got to pick the question tonight. I think you've already
done it already. She's one, but
do you know what?
I'm getting Hollywood tonight.
I think that she heard about your Malaysian pay rise and she was going for child support. Yeah. So yeah, that's question of the night.
Definitely question of the night.
I'll bring your phone over in a minute.
But thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming along. And thank you. Put your hands together for the legendary, one of our own, Tony Cottee. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you. And thank you so much for coming out. Just quickly before we go, the Brewdog, I'll take you bookings for Christmas. If you want to come down here and have a Christmas party, I'll take you bookings. Els at the back there. And there's all sport games over here all through November, December, January, all the time. So, but thank you very much for coming along. Thanks to the Brewdog. Thanks to you guys. Thank you very much.